Hi, Marissa here again from Revolution, and here to answer another question from our wonderful followers from around the globe. So Geisha from Dreamers and Doers has asked us, what are some actionable tips for having a stellar work culture with a remote team that includes freelancers? And what are some of the pitfalls that I should be aware of, that we should be aware of and look out for? So, really exciting is that we need to know what good culture looks like and what that means. So, culture is our beliefs, our thought processes, our attitudes, our ideologies, our principles. And each of us as individuals has these things. And it's really important that we also have them as companies, as organizations, as schools, as workplaces, as teams. And so all of those institutions and groups of people have their own culture. And we want to make sure that there is consistency. And the great thing is that research tells us what engages human beings and what leads to strong work culture. We know that employees are happiest and most connected when they are mentored, when they are appropriately challenged, when they have meaningful opportunities for promotion and growth, when they feel connected to your vision, to a mission, to a North Star. We know that employees are most engaged and happy when they are involved in decision making and they feel like they have voice and choice, when they feel appreciated, not only by their boss, which is sometimes where we leave it, when they feel appreciated by their peers, by their clients, by the company at large. We know that people want to feel valued, that they need to be held accountable. We know that people need to feel empowered to live into their best selves, to take ownership of their strengths and to do things that can contribute directly to that North Star and mission. We also know that people need to feel trusted and that other people need to be trustworthy. And I'm going to go into that a little bit deeper in a second. People want to feel like they are a part of a team and that they are safe. They want to know what's happening, which in pandemic times is really, really hard. We don't feel safe when we walk outside the door. And so trust and safety and security are these building blocks, and that's where we're going to be living for a while. Those are the fundamental needs that we need to be meeting within this new remote culture, or perhaps not new, but for many of us it's new. And we need to focus on meeting the real human needs of the real human beings with whom we work. And so how do we do this? What are the actions that we can take? And then what are the pitfalls that we have to look out for along the way? So work culture requires having a culture, which requires us to be intentional about building that culture, not just once, not just twice, not just on Fridays, but every single second of the day. Work culture is impacted by every person that interacts within that system at every moment that work is happening or that work is being thought about. So if somebody is sitting on their vacation, they're sitting on a beach, they're trying to relax, and they get pinged and they get a notification on Slack that their boss needs something from them, that impacts your culture. Even though that person is on vacation, maybe out of sight, out of mind. So we have to make sure that we are intentionally building up the culture and that we're doing that with very specific things in mind. And so at Revolution, we encourage companies to start with heart. Heart stands for humanity, empathy, authenticity, relationships, and trust. Every person that we work with, every person that works for us or with us is a human being with real needs. And sometimes those needs are much bigger than work. And we need to recognize that and own that and allow people to show up as human beings with real emotions and real experiences. We also want to be deeply empathetic, and really that's the bare minimum. We want to be radically compassionate and meet people where they are. We want to walk with people in their suffering. We need to make sure that our workplaces are safe places for people to feel uncomfortable, to feel angry, to feel all sorts of unpleasant ways without risk of repercussion, because the emotion itself is the human part. It's the way we regulate it and express that can become challenging. And so we want to build up our competence to create emotionally safe spaces for the full range of human emotions to come out. We want people to be able to be authentic as their most authentic selves, the truest version of themselves. We don't want people to have to hide who they are. We want there to be really strong relationships, which means that we can't only get to know people for what they do, but also for who they are. And then we need to have real strong trust. And we have to trust other people, and we also need to be trustworthy. And trust has 4 main components. So we have to be credible. We have to know what we're talking about. We have to be reliable. We have to do what we say we are going to do when we're going to do it. We have to have those strong relationships, and it has to be about more than us. When people feel like leaders have ego driving, then that depreciates the trust. So humanity, empathy, authenticity, relationships, and trust, if those are the foundation, you are on a really good foundation, and there's only growth to happen. Want to make sure that all of that, as you're moving up, as you're building on that foundation, you're building up together, that there's a common North Star, a mission and values that people are aspiring to together. And an actionable tip that I have for you is to make sure that every single person, whether they're a freelancer, whether they're a full-time worker, whether they're a part-time worker, whether they've been there for 2 months or 17 years, we need to make sure that people know and understand what their roles are and how those roles tie directly to your mission, your vision, and your values. And then we need to affirm it over and over and over again to say, thank you so much, Geisha, for contributing to this mission of empowering women and connecting people across the globe. That's what the output of you working on this back-end project was. We need to make those connections regularly, not only at the end of the year or during appraisals. People need to feel connected to their workplace and the work of that workplace, and understand how they're connected to the other human beings who are doing that work. And oftentimes when we don't do that, that's when we see the major silos developing, when we see people checking out, and we see that people don't trust each other. So over communicate, be transparent, and of pitfalls. So one of the biggest things that I see in companies is lack of trust and trustworthiness. We already talked about the components of that, but if there is no trust, it is very hard to have strong work culture. And if there was no trust before COVID-19 happened, and now people have shifted into a remote culture, it is absurd to believe that there is more trust now than there was, unless you have taken explicit actions to make a difference. So truly figure out how to build trust. One of the ways we can do that is by fostering regular opportunities for joy and connection and getting to know each other beyond just our work scope. Want to make sure that people are really clear about about expectations, about what's expected of them, about what outputs look like. I think that what I've seen in this newish remote culture is that we tend to withhold information until we know all of the pieces. And it's really important that we just we're clear about what we don't know, but that we're not holding things too close to us. Because when people are feeling unsafe and they feel like information is being withheld, then that leads to lack of trust, and it leads to gossip, and it leads to rumors, and those stories are much worse than what's likely happening. So be transparent. We're avoiding, as a leader, making assumptions about what's happening. We can assume that people are behaving in such and such a way or disengaged for such and such a reason, but if we don't ask, then we really don't know. And so one of the pitfalls of positive work culture is that we assume that because we're happy, everybody's happy. Or we assume that somebody's just stressed because of the pandemic, when really it's something within your control and that's workable. The last piece I want to mention here is that the biggest pitfall to work culture is hiring the wrong people for the wrong roles. Having people in the wrong seats on that bus that you're driving forward, that ship that you're propelling forward. It might also be about holding on to people who don't fit within your culture, even if there is only one of them. It can be deeply, deeply disruptive to your work culture to have one naysayer, to have one person who doesn't fit, to have one person who is dragging that ship down and literally throwing an anchor over and preventing you from moving forward. We have to make sure that that one person isn't being discriminated against in any way. We need to make sure that there is equity in our practices and that our systems are designed to support that one person. And if we know that, then we cannot afford to keep people who are dragging us down and who are negatively contributing to the work culture. This is hard stuff, but I'm excited to continue sharing strategies with you, the A to Z's. Comment, follow along, and looking forward to seeing the revolutionary changes that you make in the world this week.